All right. Well, we might have one more still joining us, but let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Welcome to, let me sure I get the number right, EDT 530. Um, this is our distance learning or e-learning online learning class, which basically is not that it's going to be taught online, which it is, but this is the class that basically addresses issues of designing and delivering instruction through online platforms, such as we've probably all become all too familiar with over the last couple of years. But that is basically the main focus of this class and is sort of the position of this class within the program is to address issues related mainly to online instruction and so on. So that is what we are here to do. Tonight, I promise to keep, I'll say, relatively short, meaning for sure we are not going to go till 7:10, which is when this class is supposed to run until. And I'm going to try to get us out of here, by like 6:15 maybe or so. Really, what I want to do tonight is just have a chance to meet with everyone, to have a chance to go through what the class is about and some of the specifics of projects, how the class is going to run. The course is primarily an asynchronous online class. So the majority of the weeks, you will not have to be checking in here at a specific time and doing things together. There will be spread out throughout. There will be opportunities for us to get together and kind of touch base with each other. But this class, from even before when we went online for COVID, this particular class was generally approached from an online standpoint to begin with. So it's kind of always been designed to work that way. Um, so that's mainly the goal tonight is just to kind of get everything set up. And, I'm not really going to go through anything of an instructional nature tonight. It's really just getting a handle on what the class is and what we need to do and when and how, answer any questions, and then send us all on our merry way. With apologies to the handful of you who are only in 530. You will hear me oftentimes reference the other class, which meets on Wednesday evenings and that's the EDT 520 class. As it works out, I think, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 of the 17 of us in this class are all in that other class. So there's a very heavy crossover between the two. So at times I might make references to the other class or to the Wednesday class that if you are only in tonight's class, you can ignore those references, but just because there are times where things might overlap between the two or we have to address schedules between the two. But that's the way it is. And that's actually pretty common uh, in the procedure of the program. It is relatively common to take these two classes at the same time. So that is not unusual to have so many of you in both of the classes. But we do have a handful that are only in one or the other. So I'll try to keep everybody in mind as we go forward. So very quickly, and again, partly because a number of us have already met each other through the other class, but we do have new faces. I do want to take a moment to just kind of quickly go through and get quick introductions out of the way, particularly because we don't spend a lot of direct face-to-face time in this course. I think it's important when we can to try to make connections to each other and to try to develop some of those connections. That's honestly one of the challenges we're going to be talking about with online instruction is how do you bring in that sense of community that you get when a group of students is all operating together in the same space, when you're not all operating together in the same space. So I do want to take a moment, even though a lot of us have introduced each other to just run down through that. maybe if you did introduce yourself in last week's class, maybe and you said something interesting about yourself, maybe tonight you say something different interesting about yourself or something along those lines. I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but maybe just quickly, obviously who you are, maybe where you teach if you're in a classroom. I know some of you are not in traditional classroom settings, so either where you're working or where you what school you're in, maybe what age group you work with if you do work with students, and maybe some quick interesting fact about yourself. I'll just start off again for those of you particularly who are only in 530. Um, I graduated from the educational technology program a number of years ago. I have been sort of on again, off again, on again adjunct instructor in the master's program most of the time since then, um, and have been teaching in it continuously. I think this is maybe the fourth year or so that I've been back in teaching the program with Dr. Abed. Um, my day job is I'm a high school music teacher. I teach in regional school district number 10, which is in Burlington and Harwinton, Connecticut, kind of up towards Litchfield as you start heading up into the northwest part of the state. I've been there for 23 years, this is my 23rd year. So I have been there for quite a while. And maybe an interesting thing about my background as well, in addition to being a performing musician, I actually do play out and record and so on. Um, but I also have a background in technical theater. And among other things, was the lighting and sound supervisor at the Hartford Stage Company for about 10 years. My wife was the costume shop manager there. And we actually met doing a national tour of a Broadway musical um, way back when. So I also have theater in my background as well. If being a musician wasn't enough, I'm also a theater geek. So that's just quickly a little bit about me, and I'm sure you will learn more about me as we go through the course. So, yeah, let's just kind of go quickly through. Now, we sometimes go from the beginning of the alphabet to the end, and sometimes we go from the end of the alphabet to the beginning. I'm going to try something a little different, and I think I can make this work. We're going to start in the middle of the alphabet and work our way out to the ends, which, being an M myself, we never go first. No matter what happens, we are always either in the middle or we are in the middle, and we're kind of stuck there. So, just to mix things up a little bit, I'll try to start here in the middle and kind of work my way out alphabetically. So I think, let's see, and eight. So I think if I'm doing my math correctly here, I think Jess, you actually fall alphabetically right in the middle. So why don't I have you start things off and then we'll work our way out from there.
Sounds good. I'm Jess Nelson. I never go first for anything. I'm an N. Something I haven't shared yet amongst the classes is that although I'm in my 9th year of teaching, it's like 6 years, and then I took 10 years off to be a stay-at-home mom. And so since returning to education, I have never had a normal year, just like most of the new teachers in the program. I teach middle school math also, for those of you who don't know me.
All right. Yeah, and I know I've mentioned this in other places and over the last couple of years, but realizing that we do have a lot of new teachers who have not known the experience of a normal year. Not that I know any year that was actually normal, but that is kind of crazy to think. And I just got a notification today from something from 2 years ago. We were in the city seeing a Broadway show, and it was, we saw that show, and then within a month, Broadway had shut down completely. So it was kind of weird to see that posting and realizing it's been 2 years since that all started. So, all right, thank you. Let's see. Let's go to Diane next. Oh, is Diane here? Oh,
Diane, you're muted or your microphone's not working.
yeah, it does look like you're unmuted, but for some reason we are not hearing you. No. Oh, we gotta love it. Um, maybe I'm not sure what to suggest. Maybe I don't know, log out and log back into the class and just see if that does it. And if not, we'll work out something else. But that's okay. We'll keep going because we got plenty of people. Cassie, why don't you jump in next?
Sure. I'm Cassie Myers. I teach 8th grade math in Manchester. This is my 3rd year. Something that I haven't shared with the group is that while I teach math, I'm also a dance teacher. So I teach a couple nights a week at a dance studio near where I grew up.
Awesome. What style of dance or kind of anything?
I do pretty much everything. I was trained in everything, but I mostly do tap and hip hop.
All right. Well, welcome to the class. Let's see. Let's keep this going. I think, let's see. Julia's not joined us yet. Please forgive me if I say this wrong. Vesteni? Did I even get that close?
Yeah, Destiny.
Vesteni, okay. Thank you.
Hello, I am in both of the classes, but I had some technical issues last time.
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm a high school Spanish teacher at Naugatuck, and this is my 4th year. Something interesting, you guys will hear Coco Melon every single time.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the class. Very nice. All right. Well, welcome to the class and glad you're here. Let's see. Diane, you're back. Let's see if we get sound from you this time. Fingers crossed.
Is it working?
Yes. Hey.
Awesome.
That's the version of like kicking it once or twice and then
Right.
seeing if it works. So, all right, go ahead, Diane.
I am actually not a teacher. I'm a secretary at Southern Connecticut State University. I'm looking to change careers and found myself interested in this subject.
All right. Very good. Well, welcome to the program and hope you get something out of this. I mean, hopefully everybody gets something out of this. All right, let's see. Let's go to Tyler. Why don't you jump in next?
Hey everyone, I'm Tyler. I'm a art teacher in the New Britain school system, teaching elementary art at a couple of different schools. And it's my 6th year now. And it's something I haven't shared yet to you guys. I have 2 awesome, amazing art assistants that are complete attention hogs. They do a fantastic job when I was videoing my sub plans for my kids, and I'm sure they'll get in the way here too.
Awesome. Yeah, you will occasionally, if you can see back here, that's actually kind of a rabbit home. We have a rabbit. So occasionally you'll see kind of this white shadow moving around back here in the rabbit cage. We do also have 2 very large dogs. They are not in this room, basically because of the rabbit that is in the room. But you may occasionally hear the 2 of them join in and give their thoughts on things. So, all right. Well, welcome, Tyler. Let's see. Oh, Julia, you have joined us. Welcome.
Sorry about that. I was meeting with Dr. Abbott quickly.
It's totally okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot. We're doing quick introductions, and you just happen to be the next one that would have given an introduction. So if you don't mind, you want to just jump right in and quickly where you teach, what you teach, maybe something interesting about you.
Sure. So I'm Julia. I'm in the ed tech program, as most of you are as well. I teach at a residential treatment center in Bethlehem, Connecticut. So I work with teenagers aged 13 to 20 with mental health, substance abuse issues. So I work in a kind of different teaching setting. It's a lot of IEPs, 504 plans. Everyone's doing their own thing. So it's not your traditional classroom setting. I really like it so far. Yeah, that's it for me for now, I guess.
All right. Welcome, Julia. I should also point out at this point, again, we're not going to have, in this context, a lot of direct contact time. I'm obviously just going off of the names as Central gives them to me. Obviously, if there's another name you prefer to be called by or whatever, just let me know right now. I'll make adjustments in my list. The nice thing about WebEx is you can log in with whatever name you want, so that kind of is helpful there too. But just to throw that out there. All right, let's see. Carrie, I think, is up next.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone again. I'm Carrie, and I teach high school math at Kinsella Performing Arts School in Hartford. It's a magnet school. This is my second master's, and a fun fact about me is I'm not originally from Connecticut. This is only my second year teaching in Connecticut. I'm previously from New York.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, welcome. Let's see. Continuing on here, moving outward, it looks like Cody.
Hi everyone, I'm Cody for those who haven't met me yet. I just finished my undergrad at Central for elementary education, and right now I'm just getting my grad school out of the way with educational technology, so I'm excited.
All right. Well, welcome back and welcome to this class. Alyssa.
Hello, I'm Alyssa. I am a first year second grade teacher at Gaffney Elementary School in New Britain for second grade. And a fun fact about me is that I have been to 8 different countries.
All right. How quickly can you list the countries?
Jamaica, Greece, Iceland, Germany, Italy, Mexico.
Oh. I think we lost you there
Two
for
others. I remember.
That's okay. You froze there right in the middle of thinking of the next one, so it's all good. All right. Well, welcome, Alyssa. You are one of the few who's only in this class, so you get the special privilege of being one of the solo 530 students. And speaking of that, why don't we go to Caitlin next?
Hello, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I'm in the Teacher Leadership Program. I teach at C.H. Barrow STEM Academy in North Windham. I teach second grade. This is my third full year, and then I had a little half a year before that, so kind of like 3.5 now. In August, I had my first child. This is Marley Harper. So she'll be in class with us every time we meet.
All right. Well, hello, Marley. All right. Well, welcome, Caitlin. You are also one of our Soul 530ers, so welcome to this class. Let's bump out to Alexis.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexis. I teach at Smalley Elementary School in New Britain. I'm a STEAM teacher, so I teach K through 5. This is my second year teaching, and I've adopted 2 cats during quarantine. So.
Yeah, I will admit we had cats for a number of years. I do not consider myself a cat person, but at the time we were living in an apartment and it was all that we could have. So we had 3 cats, and of course they all decided to live to about 17 or 18 years old, I think, just to spite me. But all right, well, welcome, Alexis. Donnie.
Hello, everybody. Professor, we actually we were in the middle of a class whenever the pandemic struck.
That's right.
I had to finish online.
Yep.
I am a kindergarten teacher, not originally from Connecticut. I've been teaching since 2010. I teach in Meriden. I have 4 kids and lots of pets: pig, a lizard, a bunny, a dog, and the occasional fish.
That's right. I remember the pig. I remember that.
Unfortunately, I still have him. He's yours if you want him.
I think we're good. We do have a barn where I live, but it's full of chickens right now. So, but well, welcome back, Donnie. Yeah, that was. We were literally, it was 2 years ago exactly. We were in the middle of the semester when everything shut down and we had to go online and go on from there. So that was interesting times, to say the least. All right, Alexandra.
All right, hi everybody. I'm Alexandra. You can call me Ola. I'm Polish, if you can tell by my name. um, but I am a music teacher in Middletown. I teach elementary school. It's my 9th year teaching. I started in New Haven. So it's my 4th year, I think, in Middletown. I play piano and ukulele, and I like to sing.
Awesome. I if I could turn my camera around, I've got my wall of stringed instruments, which includes a Epiphone Les Paul acoustic electric ukulele
Nice.
that I got for use at school. My mainly what I teach, my main class that I teach at my school is actually a rock ensemble class, is a modern
Oh,
band
cool.
class. So I'm kind of into the whole guitars and drums and ukes and keyboards and all that kind of stuff.
I
So
love it. In solidarity.
yeah, yep. So great. Hey, we have another music teacher. Awesome.
Woo.
And I would ask you to pronounce your last name, except I probably would never be able to repronounce it correctly anyway. But yeah, I figured that looks somewhat
Yeah, it's you pronounce it Stigel.
okay.
It's not
That's fine.
hard if you hear it. It's just when you look at it, it's weird. But yeah. So Ola is just a nickname for Alexandra in Poland, like William and Bill kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I mean, you can call me whatever, but I'll respond to both.
All right. Sounds good. Well, welcome, Ola. All right. Down to the last four. Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm an 8th grade social studies teacher at Griswold Middle School. That's in Rocky Hill, Connecticut. I think I mentioned last time I was born and raised in Rocky Hill, so I went through the school system myself and now I teach there. I'm also a coach at Rocky Hill High School, so I coach here as well.
All right. What do you coach?
Soccer.
Oh, okay. Awesome. All right. Well, welcome to this class. Getting there, Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I teach 3rd grade in East Lyme, Connecticut. I mentioned last time that I had just bought a house in Brantford, so I have a little bit of a haul to get here. But something I don't think I said in the last class is that I am a first-year teacher, so I am starting my first year teaching. I bought a house, and I'm starting full-time as a graduate student. So just a long way of saying that I'm a little bit crazy. So
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
in a nutshell.
We've all been there. I was finishing up basically a second master's program up until the end of last semester. So I have been a student, a university professor, and a high school teacher all at the same time. So yes, we all know what that's like. All right, down to the final two. Nicole, take it away.
All right, so my name is Nicole Castillo, and I am a high school life skills teacher. I've been teaching for the last 17 years. Something interesting about me, despite my last name, I am the only person in my family who does not speak Spanish, but my second language is American Sign Language.
Oh, okay. Very cool. I don't know how common this is. Our high school actually offers ASL as one of its world languages. So you can
That's
take,
awesome. It's not very common.
yeah, you can take
Awesome.
French, you can take Spanish, you can take Mandarin, and you can take ASL.
That's
So
awesome.
which I thought is always very cool. All right, Jacob, finish us off. Last but certainly not least.
Hi, my name is Jacob Tivier. Somehow my name is still last, even though we started in the middle, which is super frustrating. It's okay. I've been teaching at Danbury High School now for my 3rd year, and a interesting fact is I flew for the first time last year, and I will never do it again.
Yeah, I made it until college, until I was on a plane. So it took me quite a while too, and I'm okay with it now. I've flown enough, but it's not one of my favoritist things to do. I'll put it that way. But so all right. Well, we've got, as you can tell, we've got a full class here. We've got 17. It's great that everybody is here. It's nice that we have this time to kind of touch base with everybody and kind of kick things off this way. So, maybe first and foremost, particularly because this is largely an asynchronous class, is communication obviously is very important. So if at any point about anything in the course you're unsure, you have questions, you've got concerns, please never hesitate to reach out to me. You've got email that you can reach me through. Hopefully you've signed up for the Remind. That's another way that you could get a message to me. On the Moodle website, there's at the end of every week's class, there's always a place where I leave. If you've got questions that maybe you think other people might have, you can always throw them in there, and then I get notifications about that. But please just don't hesitate to reach out. I know those of you who are in the other class, it's totally okay if on a Wednesday night you have a question that you want to ask. I'm totally okay with that. I can sometimes separate and track two courses at the same time. So, but just know that I take that very seriously. If you email me or message me, what I promise is that I will get some kind of response back to you by the end of the following day. So if you email me in the afternoon on a Tuesday, you should have some response at the latest by the end of Wednesday, but hopefully even before that. I'm an early riser. I get up at 5 every day. I get to school at 6. I know that sounds crazy, but it does give me some early morning time totally by myself to kind of get messages out and respond to things. So just just know that even though this is designed to be largely an asynchronous class, that I am still here and only an email message or a text message away if you have questions at any point. So with that said, basically tonight I want to just kind of go through the class, basically run the syllabus, point out a couple of things, talk about a couple of things, particularly related to calendar and kind of how that runs. And then I want to talk just a little bit about the two major projects of the course and how those are going to work. And honestly, then I will talk about sort of what the work is to be worked on for next week and for the next couple of weeks. And that's really all I've got to get over tonight. So let me jump right into it. I'm going to bump over here and share this screen. And this is right from the Moodle. So everything that I'll be pulling up here, you can take a look at in the Moodle on your own. This is just what I was hoping to go over tonight. So let me actually jump right over. And before we look at the syllabus, I want to go to this as just kind of an organizational, I don't know, a overall organizer for my goals for this course. And my mom being an English teacher, I love alliteration and things like that. So I'm always looking for ways to bring that in. So what I have here are kind of three main targets for this course. And the reason they're targets is because from experience, from research, from just sort of being in the educational world for as long as I have, they are three areas, particularly when we're talking about technology in education or online learning in education. There are three areas that consistently kind of need the most help. And so they're the areas I'd like to kind of focus on and try to really get a grasp on in order to help improve instruction across the board. So number one being poor planning. And this just comes, I mean, this shows up at a lot of different levels, but it starts at even just knowing what it is or what the goals are of what you're teaching or what you're really trying to get out of your students. From a technology standpoint, one of my biggest pet peeves is when technology is thrown into educational settings without any sort of a plan for how to actually use it or why we're using it or anything along those lines. So so that is one of the things we're going to focus on. This is a little bit ahead of things, but there are basically two main projects.
You muted yourself.
Oh, did I? Oh, yes, I did. All right, there we go. I'm better. Okay. I was pulling something else up and my finger must have slipped on the button. So, so we got these two main projects, technology integration plan and this Moodle lesson we're going to be developing. The technology integration plan especially is going to address that issue of, let's just throw technology into the classroom and hope that it does something. We would rather have the ability to look at the class or look at the technology, figure out why it is we need it, find the best technology to fit, and then make sure we're making plans for bringing it in. So poor planning is going to be one thing we're looking to address. A second thing is going to be deficient design. Many of you were in my 515 class last semester. This is kind of now our first continuation or application of those instructional design principles. Even if you weren't in the 515 class, a lot of this boils down to just addressing instructional design and taking into account all of the different things that kind of need to go into planning instruction, and especially when the instruction you're planning revolves around technology or is using technology as its delivery platform. You've got to make sure that things are well designed and well thought out so that you have the best chance of success. So that's sort of prong number two. And then the third is mediocre materials. And this gets into the actual creation of things that you need to use in instruction. So handouts, videos, audio clips, animations, using interactive online tools, anything along those lines. We want to take a look at each one of those. So, there are other classes that you will take as part of the EdTech program, if you're in that program, that will get into some of these in a lot more detail. Things like Photoshop and Illustrator and video and audio production. So this class, we're not gonna really deep dive into some of these modes of material creation, but we will at least look at some of the basic principles of, what makes a good instructional video, or, what are some tips and tricks that I can use if I need to record audio for something to be used in instruction. And again, particularly through the lens of online instruction, your materials have to be high quality, because especially if you're doing asynchronous, you can't be there to address any issues your students may come up with in terms of, oh, I don't know, what this actually means or anything like that. So you got to make sure that the materials stand on their own and do what they're supposed to do. So that's the other thing we're going to look at. So along the way, we will get a little bit of an introduction. And again, some of this maybe we've had, some of you may have had some introduction to this in the past. We did talk about some of it briefly in 515, and maybe in some of the other classes you've had in this program. But we will be taking a look at a couple of different modes of materials and just trying to make them better. So that is sort of at the core, that is the main thing that sort of this whole course is designed to address, is to try to look at those three areas through the lens of online instruction and educational technology, and just try to improve them and make us a little bit more aware, give us some tips and tricks that we can use in terms of that. All right, so with that in mind, let me turn attention now to the actual syllabus. By the way, are you guys, it's my computer's telling me I'm only sharing my Safari window. Are you seeing like everything with the Zoom, or sorry, the WebEx and everything? No? Okay. For some reason, my whole screen has the orange box around it, which is trying to convince me that I'm sharing my entire screen. I just wanted to make sure that was not true. All right, so here we go, syllabus. And hopefully you've had a chance to look at this. I'm certainly not going to read everything here, but just want to hit a couple of the main things. There's my email address. It's also on the Moodle. It's also other places. So anytime you need to email me, just use that. I don't have regular time on campus, although one of the things I'll talk about when we get into the schedule and the calendar is there will be periodic weeks where I am on campus during this time. So for those of you that really like the in-person, like to sit down face-to-face with somebody to talk about things or ask questions, I will have somewhat regular times on campus during this course. So that could be an option as well, but we can also set up and we can meet through WebEx or through Zoom or other ways too, since I don't have a regular office on campus. Obviously, you all got to the Moodle because you're all here. Course philosophy, I kind of just addressed that in terms of what we are looking to address in this class. We're trying to address some of these typical failures of technology in classroom settings, sort of through the lens of online instruction and technology integration. Course objectives, this is just kind of what we just went through, but laid out in a slightly different way. And a little bit about some of the things we're going to do. And then that leads us to the actual sort of projects for the class. And I am going to talk in more detail about these in just a few minutes, but in terms of kind of where the grade comes from in this course, there's 4 main areas that I'm going to be looking at. One of them are a series of forum activities. Those are going to be split between discussion forums, where we have a topic that we're kind of sharing thoughts about and replying to each other. And then we're going to have production forum activities, and that ties into that material creation. So say we're working on audio, you will have completed a project creating a little bit of audio, and you'll then be posting that in a forum setting so that then we can all share and kind of discuss results and experiences and things like that. So so between those 2 types of forum sharing activities, those will be, it says weekly, but obviously if we have 5 and 5, that's 10, and we've got 15 weeks in the course. So it's not really every week, but most weeks there will be either a discussion forum or a production forum once we get to that part. The roundtable discussions, this again will come up with the calendar, but approximately every 3rd or 4th week, I kind of set the week aside without any new instruction. And I use those as weeks to touch base, to have a moment where we can interact more face to face. So maybe not all of those weeks, but on some of those weeks, I like to hold roundtable discussions where I present a couple of topics ahead of time, and then we just kind of have an open discussion about those topics. And they can be current, things that are very current to what we're experiencing now, or things related to online instruction or other things. So there will be weeks where it says roundtable, and that just means that we're not really going to be doing anything instructional that week, but we will be hopefully meeting together as much as possible and having some kind of a discussion about a topic or so. Then we have the 2 main projects for the class. One of them is the online instruction. So you are going to create a, I don't really want to use the word unit because it shouldn't be that big in scope, but it's going to be more than just a single lesson. You are going to create it so that it can be taught asynchronously online using a learning management system platform. So I know a lot of us have had a lot more experience with this over the last 2 years than maybe we had previously, but we want to take a look at, really focus in on one sort of little section of lessons and really see what we can do to create some high quality online instruction. The platform we're going to use in this class is Moodle. So this class is a little self-referential in that we are using Moodle as the teaching platform, and you will also be using Moodle as the way that you're creating your project. I've actually already created everybody's Moodles, and I'll talk a little bit more about that before we're done tonight. But it's basically you'll be logging in and you have teacher access to a Moodle space where you will then be putting in all the materials and organizing it and everything else. In the past, I've asked classes, because I know not many schools use Moodle outside of college settings. It does tend to seem to be more of a college level platform. I know a lot of schools these days are using Google. My school district is a Microsoft district, so we use Teams. I know there's also Schoology is out there, which is another popular one. So, I've been a little concerned in the past about, should we still use Moodle? And I've had conversations, and pretty much every year when we get to the end of this and I talk to the students about this, they actually generally appreciate getting to use a different platform than what they're used to. I guess because it's a new experience, it lets you kind of look at it from a different standpoint. um, Moodle is a pretty good platform. I will say it's got a lot built into it that is really, really useful. So it's a pretty easy platform to learn. And honestly, the core concepts we're going to learn will apply to any online platform. So it's not necessarily just, okay, now I know how to use Moodle. What good's that going to do me? But more about the theory behind it. So we have decided, and it seems to work pretty well, to stay with the Moodle as our teaching platform. But certainly along the way, you can try to see how these ideas apply or relate to whatever platform your district happens to use, or if there's something else that you've had experience with. So anyway, so that's going to be one of the major projects we're working on, is developing that set of lessons so that it could be delivered online. And then the final one is the technology integration plan. And while this isn't necessarily strictly related to online learning, this course seemed to be the best place to integrate this particular piece of the puzzle. And what this is about is, again, addressing those moments which hopefully we haven't experienced, but I'm pretty confident that many of you have, which is the scenario of, here's the latest and greatest teaching widget. And somebody looks at it and says, wow, this looks really great. Let's get them for our school. And so they go out and they get the funding and they buy them and they throw them in your classrooms and they say, here's the new teaching widget. Now make your instruction better with it. And there's really no thought to, what's the problem we're trying to solve with this widget? Was there a problem to begin with? How do we make sure that the teachers actually know how to use this widget in their classrooms? Is it the right widget? Was there a better thing we could have gotten? So kind of that whole perspective. Many school districts have a district-wide technology integration plan, and that's kind of where this project's going to start, is by looking for some of those. But in this course, I'm not going to be asking you to create a district-wide technology integration plan. This is going to be like creating a mini integration plan, maybe for something that you could use in your classroom or maybe in your department. It may be something that, I don't know, your department or your business is already talking about wanting to integrate, but hasn't really gotten very far in the planning phases of it. So that's what that particular project's going to be about. That one's going to be completed in 5 phases that'll be spread out throughout the course. So roughly every 3 weeks or so, there will be another phase due. And each of those phases then kind of put together will help you to assemble an actual technology integration plan for something. So that's the other main project that we're looking at. All right. Snow, yeah, whatever. It's still in there because it's been in there every year. I did actually just see the university did send something out to teachers yesterday saying, if the university is closed because of snow, we are allowed to go online with our class, but we have to make sure that we've made sort of arrangements ahead of time, that is okay with the students, and blah, blah, blah. We'll deal with it when we get to it, if it happens. I mean, again, this class is mostly asynchronous anyway, so I don't know that it will ever impact us. But if for some reason one of the weeks where we're meeting synchronously happens to be a major snowstorm or something like that, I'll use Remind and Moodle to kind of send out a plan, and we'll figure out what works best for everybody. But that whole thing of dealing with snow days has kind of changed. Attendance and participation, again, this is in here because it's sort of department policy. But again, because this is largely an asynchronous class, there's not going to be a whole lot of required attendance to begin with. Even the weeks that are the discussion weeks, which I would strongly encourage people to try to be here on those weeks. But if you can't make it one of those discussion weeks that's more synchronous, it's not the end of the world. I do record every class. You can always get caught up after the fact. I mean, I would love to have everybody involved with the discussions, but it is what it is. So this whole thing of 2 unexcused absences, et cetera, you're really not going to even have opportunities really to have unexcused absences. So that should be fine. If you need any accommodations for any reason for any part of this class, please just let me know. It is an online project-oriented class, so a lot of it is about doing things and producing things, being creative. It is a graduate class, so the university does have an expectation of sort of how much time you're spending a week on this class. But I will also let you in on a little secret. I'm not a huge homework person. I spent years growing up with my mom being a 9th grade English teacher of watching her everywhere she went, anywhere she went. She always had a handbag that had a bunch of papers in it that needed to be graded. That was just like her life. We went to a concert, she had her papers there to grade. We went to dinner, she had her papers there to grade. Like that was just a piece of it. So there will be work to do, and it is expected that the work gets done. But that is what it is. Online courtesies, yeah, whatever. Late pass, again, this is in here because it's kind of a department guideline. But I also, and again, because this is asynchronous largely, if you need extra time to finish something up, just let me know. That's all I ask. The course materials will be delivered on kind of a weekly basis, and there will be suggested due dates for a lot of things. But that's largely just about keeping people on track so that they don't suddenly find themselves at the end of the semester having to slam through a semester's worth of work in 3 days. So that's more about pacing. So, if something says due next week and you need a couple of extra days to get it finished and in, just let me know and it'll all be fine. So don't worry about this official late pass that you can use once, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, any questions so far? I know I'm talking a lot tonight. I do want to get you out of here early, but I also don't want to put anybody to sleep. So maybe I should grab the ukulele and play a quick song just to wake everybody up. All right, so here we go. Let's talk calendar then, because this gets a little bit interesting and is even a little more interesting this year than it was the last couple years. So first thing, and I hope this doesn't confuse anybody too much, I am calling this class meeting week 2. And again, that just is mainly for the people who are in both courses because the semester started on a Wednesday. So EDT 520 met last week, which was week 1. And then 530 started this week. And also for my own sanity, I just didn't want to have to be keeping track of, okay, this is week 3 in this class and it's week 2 in that class. And for those of you that are in both classes, so I think it'll be fine once we get past this week because then it'll just be whatever week it is. So, but that's why everything starts with week 2 is just to keep the 2 courses sort of synchronized in terms of that. So from there, aside from the details on the calendar, the main thing is, tonight is a synchronous WebEx meeting, and it's great to see everyone here. But then next week, because there's no indication, because this is assumed to be an asynchronous course, if there's nothing in the schedule, then that means that's an asynchronous week. It means that by Tuesday, although I sometimes try to get the materials out earlier by a day or two, but you should have all of the materials that you need for that week of the course available to work on at your own pace. So if there's nothing in the calendar that says anything about a synchronous meeting or lab time, then that's an asynchronous week. The weeks where it says synchronous class, those are, as you can see, mainly those roundtable discussion weeks. So what will happen on those weeks, and this is kind of 3 things all tied into one, is number 1, I do hope that it can be synchronous. Like I said, I would love to have as many of you participate if in these discussions as we can. So that's the synchronous part of it. It will be on WebEx, so you can participate in the class from home, just like we are right now. But also, any weeks that are marked lab time, those are the weeks where I will physically be on campus in the lab in Barnard Hall, which is room 208. So you have options on those weeks of attending the class remotely through WebEx, or coming on to campus if you wish and joining us in the lab itself and meeting class there. It's entirely up to you. I just know that there are people who just prefer to be face to face and just sort of have that experience. So I'm trying to accommodate as many different sort of learning modes as possible here. So any week that is marked lab time, that just is the way of me saying I will be on campus. I will be on WebEx, but I will be on WebEx not from here in my studio at home, but I will be on WebEx from campus. So feel free to join me there if you wish. If not, not a big deal. And like I said, also, if those weeks, if something comes up and you just aren't available, then just let me know. I will be, recording the discussions, and then at least you can kind of check back in and kind of see what we talked about and what we discussed, and still get something out of it. So those are the two main types of meetings that we have. And it roughly gets into sort of an every third week cycle. I know it doesn't start off that way. We have next week is asynchronous, and then the following week is that first roundtable. But then after that, we have 2 weeks asynchronous, and then we have a week synchronous. And then we actually get 3 weeks asynchronous because stuck in the middle of it is spring break. So that's an additional week in there. And then we're back to a synchronous meeting. And then again, 2 weeks off, and then back to synchronous again. This one here, week 13, is the only synchronous week where I will not be on campus. I can't remember exactly why. I probably have something at school that's going to keep me there until close to when this class starts. So that's the 1 week where I won't be on campus, but all of the others will be. I will be doing them from campus. So I think that's the biggest thing about the calendar. The other thing I would like to ask at this point, and again, this is a discussion we had in the Wednesday night class too, is the time of the meeting for those weeks where we are meeting synchronously. 4:30 is obviously what the university has told us when the class starts, but I also know and have already been contacted by several of you where I know that 4:30 is like cutting things close. You're not able to get home. If you teach elementary, you may not be finishing school till 3 or 3:30, and then if you've got a half-hour drive home or more. So for Wednesday's class, what we decided was that the weeks where we do meet synchronously, that we would bump that meeting time back to 5 o'clock. And with that, I also will agree that I will never keep you past like 7. I know, again, university says this class goes till 7:10. I don't know if any of you have any other classes that meet after this one, but I don't want to go past that 7:10 mark. So at the most, we would do like 5 to 7 as a couple-hour meeting time just on those synchronous weeks. So is there anybody who has an issue with pushing the start time back to 5 and thinking kind of more 5 to 7 rather than 4:30 to 6:30 or so?
I don't mind either way. I do have a class at 7:20 right after.
Okay.
I can always go on campus anyway, and just do it that way. So that's fine.
Okay. And like I said, that's only the weeks that are synchronous, so that's only about every third week of the class. And those discussions generally, I don't usually need the full 2 hours for those discussion nights. So it'll start at 5, but we might be done still by 6:30 or so. So you'd still get a little bit of a break there in between. What class are you taking, by the way?
So I'm taking my capstone class, my second capstone
Yeah,
class.
is that still with Dr. Sugunro?
Yep, yep.
I was exactly there 1 year ago right now.
Oh
So
wow. Yeah, so actually I'm glad that we're cutting it short today because I was like, how am I gonna get there from home? Because I forgot my laptop today in
oh,
school. So
gotcha.
like, yeah, but anyway, so that's fine.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and if you need to leave a little early, or like I said, most of those weeks I will be on campus.
Yeah, so
Um,
I think I'll just do that and
yeah,
we'll
and
be
those
easier.
classes, he meets those classes in Barnard too, right?
Yeah.
So you would
Yep.
essentially be just walking down the hall from the lab to the next class if you
Yeah,
if you
so
want to
that
do
won't
that.
be bad.
Okay. All right. Well, I will keep that in mind too as we go along. But if that works, but yeah, generally speaking, that 4:30 start time just seems to be cutting it close for many people. So I see a bunch of nodding heads. So it's obviously the case for many. So we'll just plan that. I will update. I probably won't reprint the syllabus, but what I will do in the Moodle, and I didn't do it yet because I wanted to have this discussion first. But I know you can't see the content of each week in the Moodle, but you can see the headers for each week. And what I'll do is put into those which weeks are asynchronous, which weeks are synchronous, and what the start times are and all that. So you can sort of quickly log into Moodle and just see like what's coming up in terms of where the class is meeting and when. All right. Anything else related to syllabus? I mean, I laid out hopefully a rough plan of when we're doing things and when stuff is due. But I always point out, just check the Moodle for the most up-to-date information. Weeks can change. We might shuffle things around depending on how things are going. So, the last item or the next to last item every week in the Moodle is, homework due next week or due, over the next couple of weeks. That's always the best place to look in terms of knowing exactly. Plus, that will also have many times links to the actual pages where you're going to be doing the work and so on. So, but at least this one will give you a little bit of an overview kind of how things are going to run and when things are due and so on. So you can take a look at that as you wish. All right, let's see. I did that. I did that. I did that. Okay, so let me quickly, and I don't want to get too bogged down in this, but I do want to talk briefly about those two major projects because you're actually going to take your first steps in both of them over the next couple of weeks. So let me start with the Moodle lesson. This is that online lesson. I know this is probably small on some of your screens. I can't really blow it up or it'll go off the screen. But again, this is all in the Moodle if you want to look at it there too. So this is one of the two major projects. It is designed to kind of draw a whole bunch of skills together into one thing, like killing a bunch of birds with one stone. So it will address design issues, planning issues, instructional design issues through this. We will be addressing materials production issues through this. We will be looking at assessment issues. We will be looking at segmentation and sequencing issues. So the Moodle project is kind of this container through which we can demonstrate all of these different elements of online instruction. So it's going to be the place where we park all of the stuff that we do and use it as a way to kind of model what good online instruction should look like. So you can, in terms of the topic for this, I'm a huge believer in doing things that apply to your actual lives. So you can certainly come up with some totally brand new topic for this Moodle project if you want. That's totally fine. But also feel free to use something that you already do in an instructional setting or that you have done, rather than maybe reinventing the wheel completely from scratch. It's okay to start with something that already maybe partially exists or already exists in a certain form. The goal of this is going to be to deliver this instruction completely asynchronously. So that may be taking things, even if you've done material before online, you maybe haven't done it with the goal of making it completely asynchronous. So even taking something you've done before, you're still going to have plenty of opportunity to dive into it, to redesign it, to kind of recreate it, in a way that, you know, sort of suits this online platform. So one of the things you're going to want to start doing this week is sort of thinking about a topic or a subject. Um, you know, so in terms of the size of it or the scope of it, I mentioned this before. It's I wish I had like a number I could just put on it. It should be bigger than a single lesson. So if you're thinking instructionally, this should take more instructional engagement than just like a single sit down. But at the same time, it shouldn't be like an entire unit. So you're a social studies teacher, you know, you teach, I don't even know what a good topic would be. You teach, you know, the American Revolution. I don't want you creating a Moodle that covers the entire American Revolution. That's too big a scope for the time that we have. I'd rather you focus in on something much more narrow and really be able to create it very well than to get sort of having to spread yourself too thin across too big a topic. So something that would be like maybe 3 or 4 class meetings worth of material. So, you know, like a mini set of lessons or a single topic that maybe is addressed over the course of 2 or 3 or 4 lessons. So something in that range. And again, it's also going to probably be different if you're elementary or if you're high school, or, you know, if you're not teaching in a school, you're going to be looking for something sort of outside of that framework. So that's going to also change the scope of it. But as a guideline, kind of think along those lines. Something that would probably be segmented up into maybe 3 or 4 or 5 larger chunks that we can then turn each of those into a lesson sort of a thing in the Moodle and go from there. The other thing to keep in mind as you're thinking about a topic is, because we are also going to use this as a way to showcase our ability to create various types of media for instruction, is you want to pick a topic that kind of offers those opportunities. So you want something that can be supported by video, that can be supported by graphic elements, that can be supported by interactive web types of experiences. So maybe keep that in mind too as you're starting to think about a topic, is that you want to have something that's got opportunities for addressing through a wide range of materials, which shouldn't be that hard. I mean, most subjects, if you're creative, you should be able to come up with all sorts of different types of things that you can do and materials that you can use. So, you know, this bulleted list here basically just kind of goes through as you're starting to develop what your idea is going to be, just to keep in mind so that you're picking a topic that you think is going to work well. So once you've kind of thought of a topic, have a general idea, then what we're going to spend the next couple of weeks looking at is the instructional design piece. So you will be creating a document where you will address some key concepts related to instructional design. You're going to talk about who the instruction is for. You're going to be setting instructional goals. You're going to be identifying the problem or instructional issue that you're trying to address. So that's going to be like the first couple of assignments, is just thinking through that initial design. So you're not going to be starting to put materials together or content or anything like that. We're going to address the design and the planning of it first. and then get into actually realizing it in the Moodle. So, so that's kind of the basic overview of what the Moodle is. The rubric is also supplied in the Moodle. Some people panic when they look at a rubric right off the bat because it looks like a lot. Other people love to see the rubric right from the beginning so they know what they're aiming for. So if you want to look at the rubric, you can. It's posted there as well. But basically, we're going to walk through these Moodle projects sort of phase by phase. We'll start by designing, and then we'll move into creating materials and organizing those materials, and then talking about assessment and so on and so forth. So it's not going to be like we get to the last 2 weeks of the course and then I say, okay, now go build your Moodle. By the time we get to the last 2 weeks of the course, your Moodle will be mostly done already, and it'll just be putting the finishing touches on. So we'll be going through that. So any questions about that particular project at this point? I know there will be tons of questions as we go through it, but just sort of from this initial standpoint, sort of what the scope of this project is. Good. I haven't scared anybody away yet. All right. So that is one of our major projects. The other one that I had mentioned already, and actually I already talked about this one in a little more detail, is that technology integration plan, or TIP. I will usually abbreviate it as TIP because it gets really boring to type technology integration plan over and over and over again. So, as I said, this is all just about trying to figure out a better way to address the incorporation or the inclusion of a technology into a classroom setting. So again, you will be choosing what you would like to address. Technology integration can be hardware. So for example, I had an art teacher last year who was focused on, particularly related to online instruction. He was looking for some kind of see-through sort of graphics board where he could set it up between himself and a camera and be able to draw on it so that his students could see what he was drawing. So he was looking at a technology along those lines. So it could be a piece of hardware. It could be software. I know especially maybe in math subjects, I know there's a lot of math software out there that a lot of schools are adopting. So it could be something along those lines. It could even be more along the lines of like training issues. It could be something where maybe your department has already purchased something or already has something in hand, but there's been no plan put into place for how people actually will learn how to use it or how it should be incorporated. So all three of those types of problems can be addressed through a technology integration plan. It doesn't have to be just hardware or software. It could be a combination, or one or the other, or so on. So, again, one of the initial things is just going to be to kind of brainstorm some thoughts about where's a place that you might see an opportunity to develop a plan. If it can be a plan that could actually be put into use, even better. But that's not required. I know we're not all in a position where we've got, the funding and the backing and sort of the position to be the ones making those decisions. But I have also had students in the past who go through this technology integration plan, and it is actually something then that they take to their department or their school and actually get put into practice. They actually go out and find the funding and actually do it. So, again, I love practical application. I love these things being authentic as possible. So if you have that kind of an opportunity, great. If not, you get a chance to kind of, play make believe. Like, wow, wouldn't it be great if my classroom could have this thing in it? So let me make a plan about it. And who knows, maybe down the road it can actually happen. So that's kind of, again, that's the focus of this plan or this project. As I said, it's going to be completed in 5 phases. Any of you who had me in 515 in this fall, it's kind of a similar approach to what we did there with the instructional design projects, where we sort of looked at each segment of the document one at a time developed those pieces individually. And then in the end, the final assembly is actually pretty straightforward because it's basically just about taking those different sections and putting them together into one document. So that's essentially what we're going to do here is over the course of 5 phases spread out throughout the course, we're going to address one section of these technology integration plans each time. And then in the end, you will take all of them and just kind of smush them together into one final document. So the first phase of this is available starting tonight in terms of the assignment. These are spread out basically every 3 weeks. So even though I'm assigning this week, it's kind of not officially due until week 5, which is actually only 2 weeks from, or 2, 3, 4, 5, 3 weeks from now, even though this is our first week of our class, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'll always assign it at the beginning of the phase, but then you will always have 3 or sometimes 4 weeks to work on that phase of it before you have to actually submit it. So that seems to work pretty well in terms of kind of spreading out the work and not overloading people with having to like crank out week after week after week, crank out sections of this project. So that's a little bit more of a deep dive into the technology integration plan project. Yeah, and then beyond it, like you saw, the other activities we'll be doing will be those somewhat weekly forum activities, production forums and discussion forums. The first discussion forum will be part of this next week's work. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll start getting into those production forum mini projects, doing those and kind of alternating those with discussions as well. All right, any questions about the TIP initially? All right, the faces are starting to glaze over. I can see it. Tuesday night's a rough night to sit in a class for a while after a full day. So, all right, well then let me start to try to wrap this up. So let me talk about kind of the first week's worth of assignments. As you can see, if you haven't spent much time in the Moodle, generally I try to organize each week roughly the same. So the first part will be anything that we kind of go over that week. So here I've got those course focuses we looked at, the syllabus, the lesson, the Moodle project overview and its rubric, the TIP project overview and its rubric. There will be recordings posted of every week's class where we meet. The asynchronous weeks, there will probably be recordings there that'll just be things that I've recorded instructionally for you to look at. So the recording section will just have videos posted for you to look at. And then it always will finish up with the homework section, which just lays out sort of specifically what the work over the following week or weeks is going to be. So in terms of from this week to next week and beyond, set up, obviously, again, you've all registered for the Moodle because you've all signed into WebEx, so you've done that. It does look like a few people haven't gotten signed up on Remind yet. So if you haven't done that, just take a minute to do so. The link is at the top of the Moodle. It's one Remind link for both of my classes. And that's, again, just because so many of you are in both classes, rather than trying to maintain two separate reminds and send out messages on both, I just do one for combined. And, at most, I may send out one remind at the beginning of the week, just with any sort of quick updates about that week's work or the class meetings that week or whatever. So I'm not going to bombard you with text after text after text, but I have found that Remind is a really useful way for me to get quick contact out with everybody if need be. So if you haven't done that yet, do so. Moodle. So here are the first baby steps with the Moodle. Number 1, all of you have a student Moodle set up. I just set them up the other day. I don't know if you got a notification or not. Probably not, but I didn't know when I set you up as a teacher. The way you get to them, and actually I'll do it right here. If you go to, not there. if you're at the Moodle home for the university, so this is just the moodle5.ccsu.edu where it lists all of the courses. When you go into instructional technology, there will be a category for student Moodles. And when you go in there, you will see each of you has a student Moodle set up. So this is yours. You've been assigned as a teacher. I've been assigned as a teacher. So we both have access to them. And this is where you'll be doing your work on that project as we go. For this week, you don't have to do anything in there, right? Just make sure you know where it is. If you want to bookmark it or do something like that, you can do that. But I'm not expecting you to put anything into that Moodle this week, probably for at least a couple of weeks or so. So that's more just about knowing that it's there and that you can get to it. So do that. Spend a little bit of time just kind of maybe familiarizing yourself with Moodle informally. I did put a couple of links in this week in our Moodle to a quick guide that Moodle provides for Moodle, and also like their full documentation page, which literally lists how to do everything that you can do in Moodle, and it's a lot, so don't get overwhelmed. But if you're somebody who likes to just kind of poke around a little bit or kind of see what it's about, just informally, just kind of take a look at it and start to see maybe how it compares to what you've done in other classes or in your own teaching or things like that. So in terms of the Moodle itself, it's really kind of informal over these first couple of weeks. The formal thing to do is to start working on that instructional design plan. So you need to pick a topic. So that's going to be what you need to think about first. So kind of spend a couple of days thinking about what you might want to do as that project. Check out those guidelines that I went through that are on that overview page. And then the first thing you're going to actually submit is, and it is also through a forum activity, is to start this first part of your instructional design. So what I've given in the assignment is, as the instructions say, copy, paste, and fill out. So what you're going to do in Word or Pages or whatever, Google, what do they call it? It's Google Docs, whatever your word processor of choice is, you can just like copy and paste this whole text. And then what you're going to do is look at each of these four things and just fill in the appropriate information for each of the four. So first of all, what problem are you trying to address with this instruction? Second, who is the instruction for? What's your audience? Third, kind of what is the content area that you're teaching in? If you have links to standards or things like that, you could throw that in too. But this would literally be like, this is for a high school music class, or this is for, a business that does staffing considerations or does staffing services or something like that. So kind of like just what is the general area that the instruction's happening in? And then what are your instructional goals? What is it that your students should be able to do or should know by the time they're done going through your Moodle? If you're familiar with the SMART goal model, that's a very, very good one to use for instructional goals. If you aren't familiar with it, you can either reach out to me and I can send you some materials, or honestly, you can just go onto Google and look for SMART goals. There's a ton of material out there about SMART goals and kind of what each of those letters stands for. You don't have to use the SMART goal format, but it is one that I find pretty useful for instructional goals. So in your document, you'll just answer each of these with a paragraph or two or three, depending on how much you feel like needs to be in there to answer it. And then what you will do, like do it in a word processor so you can save it because you'll be adding on to it later. But then just recopy and paste everything you've done back into a discussion topic here. And the purpose of that, since we're just at the starting phases of this, is to get a chance to get some feedback. As you heard as we went through, we have many people in here who share similar topic areas, or who have similar backgrounds, or maybe who don't share, have a completely different background from anybody else. And it's always useful to be able to run your ideas past as many kind of different viewpoints as possible. So that's the point of this is, so once you've kind of answered these questions, post them into a post. And then beyond that, as people start posting theirs, just go in and check in on them. And maybe particularly if you see one that catches your eye, or is maybe a subject area you know something about, or just looks interesting, just go in and provide some feedback. So this will be a way for us to refine and revise our initial ideas by getting feedback from a lot of different people. I generally don't like to put numbers on these forum activities. I don't want to say reply to 2 other students, but for this one, I do ask that you try to provide feedback to at least 2 other students in the class. You can do more if you want. That's totally fine. And also I would ask, if you notice that one person's already gotten a lot of responses and there's somebody else's who has no responses yet, maybe help those people out by trying to spread out, where the responses are going. That way everybody gets some feedback. And I will likewise also try to contribute to these as I see them come in and put in my own thoughts as well. So hopefully everybody will get, at least 2 or 3 or 4 pieces of feedback on this initial phase. And then you can make adjustments or not, depending on the kind of feedback that you get. But people may be able to point something out to you that you hadn't thought of, or maybe a slightly different direction to go in. So that's the point of posting it to the forum as kind of the means of turning it in. So,
Question.
yeah, question.
Just to clarify, the Moodle that we are creating is something that students will be able to use asynchronously on their own in hopes?
Yes, that should be. Now, I mean, obviously your actual students don't have access to this Moodle platform. So literally speaking, and I do use the word literally, I know people use it not correctly, but so the actual project you're building will just be for imaginary students in a way. But the imaginary students you should be thinking of would be accessing this completely asynchronously. And the reason I want to focus on asynchronous is because it's obviously the more challenging of the two. Synchronous is a little easier because that's kind of just about posting materials, and then you're there as a teacher and you can explain it and you can do all that. So I want us to really challenge ourselves to see, if we can do it for asynchronous learning, then backing that up to synchronous learning should be a piece of cake. That should be like, oh yeah, I can do that in my sleep. So yeah, but you can absolutely, like, if you're in a classroom, you can picture the actual students you currently have as the ones that would be doing it. And that just gives you a kind of a touchstone for like, well, what would be logical for this group of students to be able to do? And obviously elementary students are going to have a very different way of interacting with this kind of stuff than older students will. So that's going to be part of the design too. But yes, you will be creating something as if a student could log into it asynchronously and learn whatever they've got to learn from it. All right, good question. All questions are good questions. And I believe that firmly. All right, so that's really, like I said, the Moodle over this coming week, most of it is just maybe poke around a little bit in the Moodle platform, kind of see what it's about. This is really the only real assignment related to the Moodle, and it's really just about this sort of analysis phase of the instructional design. So this is really kind of the true homework for that. All right. Then let's see, back to this page. Then in terms of the technology integration plans, I already went over the general information. You can review that if you want. And then it's the assignment page that we actually were just on. Actually, we weren't on this yet. So here's the specifics now of phase one. And most of phase one is just about you looking at existing technology integration plans and just kind of seeing what they're about. So most of this one is going to be about, I want you to locate at least 3 existing technology integration plans. Best way to do that, and I've done this many times, so I know it works, is honestly just go to Google and just put in like school technology integration plan or integration document. And you should get a lot of school district hits come back, and they should, in many cases, be links to a document or to a web page where the district has kind of laid out their technology integration plan. So the first thing is just to try to locate a few of these and just look through them. If your own school district has one, that might be a good place to start, because then you kind of get an idea of what your own school district is thinking when it comes to technology. I'll give you a heads up, many districts have not done this, which from my standpoint at least is a little weird, because I know every school district is using technology, so it's weird not to have a plan for it, but that is what it is. It can also be business technology integration plans if you're somebody that's more sort of aligned with a business setting, but they're out there. So the goal is just to find a few plans, read through them. Then in the assignment, which you'll do again in Word or Google Docs or whatever, is just start by giving a brief 1 or 2 paragraph summary of each plan. So having read through it, what did you see? What did it address? What kinds of things do you think went well or looked good in the plans? Were there things that you thought maybe should have been in the plan that weren't? So just kind of a quick analysis, only a paragraph or 2. We're not looking for novels here. So just kind of summarize each one and some of your own thoughts. Then once you've looked at each one individually, give a paragraph or 2 where you try to look at what the common elements were across the technology integration plans. And this is just to start to give you an idea of kind of typically what does a technology integration plan talk about and do. So if having looked at these 3 plans, you notice that they all 3 do this and they all 3 do that, then just kind of summarize those things, those briefly. And then the final element of this phase will be then an initial sort of projection of what your own technology integration plan will be about. So maybe having looked at some other plans, that might give you some ideas. Again, remember, I'm not looking for you to do a district level or even a school level technology plan. For us, we're looking to do much more like classroom or department or topic related plans. But even looking at the district plans will give you an idea of kind of what these plans typically look like. So the final part of this document will just be you saying, I think I would like to look at doing this kind of a plan, or a plan for this kind of a technology. Could be hardware, software, training, combination of all 3, whatever. And those plans, those ideas may develop and they may change as we move forward. But I just want you to at least have a starting point for this first phase of where you think you're going. So in summary, oh yeah, I didn't mention this. When you find the existing ones in your documents, just put a URL link to them so that if I want to, I can click on them and go take a look at what you were looking at. So if you refer to something, it's there. So you provide that. It's going to be a total of 3 to 6 paragraphs where you analyze each of the 3 plans. That's 1 to 2 paragraphs per. 1 to 2 paragraphs where you talk about any common elements you found, and then a final, I don't know, this would probably be another paragraph, maybe 2, where you talk about what you think your technology plan is going to focus on. So you put all that into a Word document. For my own sanity, I do ask that you name these documents in a consistent way. Last name, first initial, and then for this one, TIP phase 1. So for example, if I was submitting it, it would look like Miller D TIP phase 1. That way, when I download them all onto my computer to look at them, they'll all organize into my folder well, and I know whose is whose and so on. So that just do that. And then this is an actual Moodle assignment. So it looks different here because I'm obviously logged in as a teacher, but you will have a submit button on this activity. You click on that, you have a place where you can upload the document you've created, and then you hit submit, and then it shows up at my end and I'm able to open it up. So that's sort of how this first phase will be done. Again, it's not due to a week 5. So this is week 2. So you've got week 3, 4, and 5. So you've got 3 weeks to start working on this. So that hopefully will be plenty of time to kind of spread out, looking at the plans, analyzing them, and then coming up with your own idea and getting that submitted for week 5. But I put it here in week 2 because this is where the assignment starts. All right, questions about the TIP project, phase 1. All right, the final thing is the first of our discussion forums. And for this one, it involves an article that is linked here, and the article is also directly in the Moodle, so you can go straight to it there too. This article basically talks about challenges, the challenges of online learning, things that are that need to be addressed or thought about in the context of trying to teach something through an online format. It looks at that question from 3 different perspectives: challenges from the learner's perspective, challenges from the content perspective, and challenges from the instructor's perspective. So rather than having everybody have to focus on all of the article, what I've done is divide you up into 3 groups. Not really groups, but just divvied out those 3 things among all of you. So each of you really only will have to focus on one of the sections of the article. And they're all titled, so you'll be able to skim through and see where your section starts. So just take a look at the list here in terms of who is focusing on which section. I think everybody's here. If I missed anybody, just let me know, but I'm pretty sure I got everybody's names here. And then for the actual discussion forum, your post is going to be to summarize the section you read, and that can be a very brief summary. I don't need a lot of detail there. And then reflect on the issues that your part of the article brought up. Not just what they said in the article, but if you can relate it to any of your own personal experiences, you can talk about that. If there's any particular issues that maybe you have ideas about maybe how to address those issues to make them not such a big issue, you can talk about that. But basically, as we head into this whole course about online instruction, I kind of want to start off by setting the stage by getting us thinking about what are the challenges particular to online instruction, so that as we start building our Moodles, you're going, oh yeah, when I read about that issue, maybe that means I should do this in my Moodle to help address that. So that's why I want to kind of dive into this right from the start. In the subject area of your post, put the topic that is yours. Put learners, content, or instructors, so that when everyone's coming into the forum, they can quickly see which posts are about which area. Because for this one, I would like you to reply to posts in areas other than the one that you looked at. So if you focused on learners, come back and look at some of the posts for content or for instructors and provide replies to those posts. That way you'll also get a bit of an idea about what the rest of the article was about, not just your part of it. And, again, I'm a firm believer with these discussions that they should be really more about the conversations and the quality of the conversation than about some numeric, okay, if you've posted to 2 other people, then you're done. So I don't put a numeric thing on it. Try to get at least 2 just to sort of be minimally engaged with people in the class. But if you feel moved to respond to more, you can respond to more. If people respond to your posts and they said something interesting, feel free to reply back to them. That way, these are more like conversations and less like, okay, I did my job, I posted my post, I wrote my 2 replies, I'm done. I'd rather us think about these more, again, especially because we are asynchronous for the most part. This is a way to make those connections. You see the ideas that other students have in the class, and you can react to them and respond to them and learn from them and all of that good stuff. So that's what this forum is about. All right, so I think that does it in terms of homework or general work that's coming up. Let me see if there's anything I forgot. Nope, that's pretty much it. So um, I know I talked a lot tonight, and hopefully nobody feels overwhelmed. Trust me, we break all of this up into very manageable pieces. It's all sequenced and spread out. So, hopefully we don't have moments where it feels like we've got 20 things that need to be done all at once for this course. I do also keep in mind for the 12 of you that are also in the Wednesday class, for the most part, we should not have synchronous meetings in the same week. I think it happens once or twice because it was just unavoidable, but I try to even spread the workload out there so that we're not having to do 2 nights in a row, because we all have lives and we all have jobs and we've all got other things we've got to be doing. So I know there was a lot I went through tonight, but just know that we've got 15 weeks to get through it. So we've got the time. We'll get through it a step at a time. I'm here as a resource at any time, even if it's an asynchronous week. Just reach out to me and we'll be there. I'll be there. All right. So that is your introduction to EDT 530 online instruction. Any questions for the good of the order at this point? Anything I didn't address that I should have? Do we need
I just
to?
have a quick. Oh,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I just have a quick question about. I don't know if I'm just confusing it in my head, but about which assignments, like, should we always just upload the Word doc of the work, or just copy and paste from the Word
Okay,
doc?
so yeah, that's a good question. It'll depend. So in Moodle, and again, you'll start to learn what all these icons mean because you'll be doing them too in your own Moodles. These ones that are kind of the 2 speech bubbles, those are forums. So for the forums, that would be where either you're just typing something right into a forum post, or in the case of the ID plan, you've done the work in the Word document, you copy and paste it in. So for those forum activities, that's the way you submit the work, is by making a post in the forum. These that look like a paper with a hand under it, those are actual assignments. And those are the ones where you are actually uploading the document itself, where you're actually uploading the file. Those will typically be just for the technology integration project phases. Most of the rest of the stuff you'll either do by actually doing it in your Moodle or by uploading it to a forum or linking it to a forum. But that's the way to tell. When you're looking in Moodle, the 2 speech bubbles means you're putting the actual text right there in the forum. The hand with the piece of paper means you are uploading the document to the assignment. Does that answer the question?
Yep. Thank you so much.
Yep. No problem. And I do try to kind of do the same types of things the same way. So once you get into the course, you'll kind of get into the flow of how all of this works and sort of how I organize materials. All right, anything else? Ooh, look, I was aiming for 6:15 and it's 6:11. That's all right. So, yeah, so next week is asynchronous. So I won't see anybody next week, at least on Tuesday night. I may see a bunch of you Wednesday. 2 weeks from now is the first of those roundtable discussions. I will be on campus by 5 o'clock. If you want to join me there, you can. If not, please join us through WebEx. If for some reason that week doesn't work out for you, just give me a heads up so I know, not to be expecting you for that particular week. But that'll mainly just be a discussion starting at 5, maybe going till 6:30 or so, 7 at the absolute latest, but probably not even to 7. And then from there on, we start getting into that sort of every third week rotation of synchronous and asynchronous. All right, very good. Well, it was great to see many of you again, and it was wonderful to see the rest of you for the first time and to have everybody here. Hopefully, you get a lot out of this course. And that's all I've got for tonight. So I will stay here in the WebEx room until everybody is logged out. So if you've got any other questions, you want to hang out and ask me more individually, feel free to do so. But other than that, have a great night. Have a great week. Hopefully don't get buried too much by the snow on Saturday. And we'll see you when we see you. So thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yep.